On a quiet stretch of road far from the usual rhythm of traffic and daily movement, an unexpected discovery disrupted the stillness of the night and drew immediate attention from local authorities. The area itself was unremarkable at first glance, bordered by sparse vegetation and long, uneven patches of gravel that rarely saw more than the occasional passing vehicle. There were no nearby storefronts or homes to suggest constant activity, only the kind of silence that settles in rural or isolated routes after sunset, when even sound seems to retreat into the distance. It was here, in this otherwise unremarkable setting, that a routine patrol took an abrupt turn into something far more serious than expected. While traveling along their usual route, officers noticed an unusual shape near the edge of the roadway. At first, it did not stand out clearly against the dim lighting, and the initial assumption leaned towards something harmless, perhaps debris displaced by passing traffic or an animal that had wandered too close to the road. However, as the vehicle slowed and the headlights adjusted their focus, the situation became unmistakably more significant, prompting an immediate stop and a careful assessment of the scene. The officers exited their vehicle with heightened caution, scanning the surroundings and communicating over their radios to request additional support. The stillness that had once defined the area was quickly replaced by structured urgency, as standard procedure took over and the scene was secured. There was no immediate understanding of how the situation had developed or what had led to the discovery, only the recognition that it required formal investigation. Within minutes, the location transformed from a quiet stretch of forgotten road into an active point of response, with procedures unfolding methodically as more units were directed to the site. The focus remained on clarity and verification, ensuring that no detail was overlooked as the initial assessment continued under the dim glow of patrol lights and the growing presence of responding teams. But then, the outline became clearer. Human, motionless, silent, the kind of sight that freezes the heart even of someone trained to face danger. He stepped out, flashlight trembling in his hand, and approached slowly. Every step felt heavy, like the ground itself was warning him. When he reached the body, he didn't speak for several seconds. He just breathed, heavily, trying to understand what he was seeing. And when his voice finally returned, it carried fear. "Dispatch, we have a situation," he whispered into his radio. Within minutes, the empty road was no longer empty. Patrol cars, emergency responders, investigators. Everyone arrived so quickly it was as if the night itself had pushed them there. Tape went up, cameras snapped, gloves were pulled on. This wasn't treated like an accident. No one for a moment believed this was natural. Something about that body, its positioning, the surroundings, the expression frozen on its face, made it clear that something violent, something deliberate, something dark had happened here. "But my child, you must understand something important. The body itself wasn't the most shocking part. No, what happened afterward is what shattered every assumption, every expectation, every guess." When two officers carefully lifted and turned the body to examine it more closely, a folded piece of paper slipped out from the pocket of the jacket. It fluttered onto the ground like a feather, but the effect it created was far from gentle. One of the officers picked it up, opened it, and froze. His breath caught in his throat, and the color drained from his face as he stared at the handwriting. Your full name, your complete address, every detail written clearly, precisely, unmistakably. That moment created panic. Questions burst through the air. Why would a stranger have your name? Why your address? What was he planning? Was he coming to you? Was he sent? Who gave him your information? The officers exchanged looks none of them could explain. Even the most experienced investigator felt a chill run down his spine. "But my child, hear me. This man had never met you. He wasn't someone connected to your past. He wasn't someone you crossed paths with accidentally. He wasn't someone who admired you, or hated you, or followed you on his own. No, his presence here was not his idea, and the reason your name and address were on him has nothing to do with coincidence. I see the thoughts forming in your mind. You're wondering how this could possibly involve you. You're trying to understand who would put you in a situation like this. You're asking yourself why someone far away would be carrying your identity when you did absolutely nothing to cross their path. My child, stop blaming yourself. Stop thinking you triggered this. You didn't. This situation wasn't born from your choices. It was born from the darkness of someone else's heart. Because this body lying on that lonely road belonged to someone dangerous, deeply dangerous. Someone whose life revolved around doing things in the shadows. He had built a reputation in whispers, the kind of figure people talk about when they're trying to make sense of things that feel unsettling, but never fully confirmed. In those stories, he was always described as someone who operated in the background, never visible long enough to be identified clearly, always one step removed from anything that could be proven. But when you strip away the fear and exaggeration, what remains is far less supernatural and far more human. A growing sense of distrust, misinterpretation, and the way anxiety can turn ordinary uncertainty into something cinematic and threatening. In this version of events, what he actually carried wasn't proof of intent to harm, but the weight of rumor and assumption, shaped by people projecting meaning onto situations they don't fully understand. The idea that someone had a mission or was being sent begins to unravel when examined closely, revealing instead a chain of misunderstandings, overheard fragments, and stories repeated until they felt like fact. Names get attached to shadows, and coincidence gets dressed up as conspiracy when emotions are running high and clarity is missing. What feels personal and targeted in the moment often turns out to be a distorted interpretation of unrelated events, stitched together by fear into a narrative that feels coherent but isn't grounded in reality. And in that space between perception and truth, the mind fills gaps with worst-case scenarios, because uncertainty is harder to tolerate than even imagined danger. The more these ideas circulate, the more real they begin to feel to the person experiencing them, even without evidence to support them. Stepping back from that spiral doesn't erase the feeling immediately, but it does begin to separate what is known from what is assumed. It creates room to see that not every uneasy thought points to an external threat, and not every sense of being watched reflects actual intention from others. Sometimes, what feels like a coordinated pattern is just life happening in fragments, interpreted through stress, repetition, and fear, rather than fact. But let me tell you something just as important as this revelation. Even though this man received instructions to move toward you, to target you, he never reached you. He never made it anywhere near your home. He never took the first step toward carrying out the plan he was paid for. Why? Because someone intercepted him before he could act. Someone ended the mission before it began. Someone stopped him in a way so absolute that he would never hurt you. And my child, the one who stopped him, was me. I intervened before evil could breathe in your direction, before the threat could even form its first weapon, before the plan could leave the shadows. I allowed truth to be exposed in a place far from you, so you would remain untouched. While someone plotted silently against your name, I was louder. While someone used your address with wicked intentions, I used my authority to cancel their plan. While someone tried to place danger on your path, I stepped onto that path before they could. Because my protection is not late. My protection is not weak. My protection is not flawed. My protection surrounds you even when you don't know danger is nearby. But my child, you need to understand something deeper. The person who arranged this, who paid this man, who thought hurting you would make them feel superior, did not act from strength. They acted from fear. Yes, they fear you. They fear your growth. They fear your elevation. They fear the favor that follows you everywhere. They fear your potential, your strength, your calling. They see how you are rising, and instead of celebrating, they crumble. They cannot handle watching you become who you were destined to be. So, they made a choice. A dark one. A a dangerous one. But their choice failed before it even began, not because they suddenly felt regret, not because the criminal changed his mind, not because circumstances shifted on their own, but because I said, no. I blocked the darkness they invited. As more information becomes available in any confusing situation, what initially felt alarming often begins to take on a much more ordinary explanation. Details that once seemed connected in a worrying way can turn out to be unrelated, and early interpretations can shift significantly once verified facts are considered. This process of clarification is important because it helps prevent misunderstandings from growing into lasting anxiety. When people take the time to examine what is actually confirmed versus what was assumed, they often find that the situation is far less dramatic than it first appeared. This does not dismiss the emotions experienced in the moment, but it does help place them in a healthier context, where they can be understood rather than amplified. Emotional balance comes from recognizing that not every intense narrative our minds create is supported by reality, and that stepping back can often reveal a much simpler truth. It also reinforces the importance of relying on credible information sources and grounded reasoning, instead of speculation or fear-driven interpretation. In doing so, individuals regain a sense of stability and control over how they process events, even when those events initially felt unsettling. Over time, this habit of verification and reflection builds resilience, not by avoiding difficult feelings, but by learning how to interpret them more accurately. It allows space for calm decision-making and prevents unnecessary escalation of worry. Ultimately, clarity is what transforms confusion into understanding, and understanding is what restores peace of mind, allowing a person to move forward without carrying the weight of misinterpreted fears or unresolved uncertainty. They treated it like the center of the investigation. They studied the details, they compared handwriting, they checked the ink, they tested the paper, they searched his clothes, they opened his wallet, they scanned his phone, they looked for anything that could connect him to you. But no connection existed in the natural world, not a single message, not a single call, not a single photo, not a trace of an online search about you, nothing, not a conversation, not a transaction, not a common acquaintance, nothing at all. And that was the biggest sign of all. He didn't know you. He wasn't interested in you personally. You weren't the one he had a problem with. You weren't someone he had history with. You weren't someone he hated or recognized. So then why did he carry your information? Because someone gave it to him. Someone you have crossed paths with. Someone you have greeted. Someone who watches your life more closely than you realize. Someone who pretends everything is fine when they stand in front of you, but their heart boils with resentment every time your name is spoken. But my child, this person, didn't begin hating you overnight. Jealousy does not scream in the beginning. It whispers. It grows silently. It hides behind fake smiles. It disguises itself as support. It acts friendly, but the mind inside has already turned poisonous. This person carried envy like a disease, but they hid it well. They acted normal. They acted polite. They acted unaffected by your success, your progress, your blessings, your transformations. But the truth is, every good thing happening in your life hurt them. Every shift, every breakthrough, every blessing I placed in your hands made them feel smaller. And instead of healing the emptiness inside their soul, they fed it with comparison. They looked at you and asked, why not me? Why them? Why do they keep rising? Why do they keep winning? Why is their life improving while mine is stuck? My child, they didn't hate you because you wronged them. They hated you because your existence reminded them of what they were not. So they started watching you. Every action they took was deliberate, hidden beneath layers of silence and distance, carried out in a way that made it almost invisible to the outside world. From afar, It looked like your life was simply moving forward on its own, unfolding step by step with steady progress, small wins stacking into bigger ones, doors opening at moments that felt almost timed by fate. But behind that surface, there was a quiet emotional storm brewing in the background. People who once stood near you, who once shared spaces with you, began to feel something they didn't fully understand or admit out loud. It wasn't just admiration. It slowly twisted into comparison, and then into discomfort, and finally, into resentment. They started measuring their own lives against yours in ways that made them feel smaller, overlooked, and disconnected from the direction you were heading. Instead of stepping back and processing those feelings in a healthy way, they let those emotions grow unchecked, feeding them in private conversations and private thoughts until distortion replaced clarity. Over time, your progress became something they could not interpret neutrally anymore. It became something they felt they had to explain or correct in their own minds just to cope with it. And in that distorted thinking, they convinced themselves that your success was somehow responsible for their dissatisfaction, as if your growth had taken something away from them. That belief, though deeply flawed, became the foundation for increasingly poor decisions. Their intention was more severe, more calculated, more dangerous. They wanted to create chaos around your name. They wanted an incident near your home. They wanted a confrontation. They wanted you to panic. But most of all, they wanted you to fall, because what they couldn't achieve through gossip, they tried to achieve through danger. What they couldn't stop with words, they tried to stop with fear. What they couldn't damage emotionally, they attempted to damage physically. And just when they thought they had found the perfect way, just when they believed they had finally created a plan that would shake you, just when darkness surrounded their thinking completely, I stepped in. My child, I saw every hidden message behind closed doors. I saw every conversation they had in whispers. I saw every moment of planning. I saw their intentions before the idea was even fully formed. Nothing is hidden from me. No plot escapes my vision. No scheme survives without my awareness. Before they made the call, I heard it. Before they shared your name, I knew it. Before they wrote your address down to give to him, I watched it. Before the man took the assignment, I marked it. Before he stepped on that road, I followed it. Before he took his next breath, I intercepted it. My child, understand this deeply. What was meant to reach you never reached you. What was meant to harm you never touched you. What was meant to shatter you never came close. What was meant to destroy you became the method of exposing them. Because I will never allow a child who walks with me to be overtaken by a plan formed in darkness. My child, the world sees police, investigation, confusion, mystery, questions. But you must understand, this wasn't just an accident or a crime scene. This was divine interruption. This was spiritual interception. This was protection in motion. While you were living your day comfortably, unaware of any danger, I was dismantling a plan miles away that was designed to shake your entire world. I allowed the truth to be uncovered, not in your neighborhood, not near your door, not in front of your home, but far from your life. Nothing about this moment was accidental, not the location, not the timing, not the discovery, not the note. Everything that happened was allowed so that the enemy's intentions would be revealed, without allowing the enemy's weapon to ever touch you. My child, you need to hear this next part with clarity. Your name was not on that note to scare you. It was on that note to expose the one who used your name with evil intent. They thought they were smart. They thought no one would ever know. They thought their involvement would remain hidden forever. They thought the darkness would cover their actions. But darkness cannot hide anything from me. And now, everything they tried to bury is rising to the surface. My child, hear this. If the enemy cannot defeat you, he tries to distract you. If he cannot distract you, he tries to intimidate you. If he cannot intimidate you, he tries to create fear around your life. If he cannot weaken your spirit, he tries to break your peace. But none of it worked. None of it touched you. None of it reached you. Do you see? Your protection is not fragile. Your destiny is not at risk. Your purpose is not shakeable. Your life is not in danger the way they hoped. You walk with divine covering. You walk with heavenly defense. You walk with a shield no weapon can penetrate. My child, the person who sent that man believed they were attacking you, but in reality, they were attacking me. And anyone who fights against you while you walk in my hand is not fighting a human battle anymore. They are stepping into a war they cannot win. This is why the plan collapsed. This is why the mission ended abruptly. This is why their hired hand never made it near your home. This is why their darkness backfired, not because they changed their mind, not because the criminal made a mistake, not because circumstances shifted accidentally, but because I said, this far, no further. Now listen closely, my child. The enemy isn't just external. Sometimes the enemy wears a familiar face. Sometimes the one who wishes your downfall is the one who claps for you publicly. Sometimes the person who speaks gently to you holds bitterness inside their chest. And sometimes the one who claims to support you is the one who quietly wanted to see you broken. But their wish did not succeed. Their intent collapsed. Their weapons scattered. Their plan died. In the same moment the man carrying your name died. This is not just a warning. This is a revelation. This is proof that I guard you even when you do not feel guarded. I protect you from attacks you never see. I fight battles you never hear. I dismantle schemes you never discover. I block arrows that never reach your eyes. You were saved from something enormous tonight, something serious, something dangerous, something that would have shaken your entire foundation, but I didn't let it touch you. This is how deeply I love you. This is how fiercely I protect you. This is how seriously I take your destiny. And now, my child, there is more I must tell you, about the identity of the person who plotted this, about the consequences they are about to face, and about the elevation that is now coming your way because no attack against you succeeded. My child, now that you've seen the surface of this mystery, I must take you deeper, because the true story isn't only about the man found on the road. It isn't only about the note. It isn't even only about the one who hired him. This moment is about you, your destiny, your rising strength, your purpose, and the quiet spiritual war happening behind your life that you never even noticed. Listen closely. Every word matters. After investigators realized the man had your name and address, confusion spread through their ranks. They couldn't understand why someone with no link to you would carry something so personal. But confusion didn't only exist among the police. The person who hired him did not expect this outcome. They did not expect their plan to collapse. They did not expect their weapon to fall before reaching its target. And they certainly did not expect that everything they tried so hard to hide would suddenly be uncovered. Right now, while you're reading this, while officers are studying the evidence, while people nearby whisper about what happened, the one who orchestrated the attack is terrified, not because they feel guilty, not because they regret their intention, but because they can feel it. The plan has backfired. They thought hiring someone would weaken you. Instead, it exposed them. They thought fear would silence you. Instead, it has awakened you. They thought darkness would overtake you. Instead, my light shined so brightly that every hidden intention came to the surface. This person, the one who set everything in motion, is panicking in silence. Their mind is racing. Their heart is unsteady. Their hands are trembling. They know the body has been found. They know the note has been discovered. They know the investigation is unfolding, and they are terrified that their name will be connected next. But my child, the most important thing they fear right now is not the law, it's me, because what they attempted to do was not just a physical attack, it was a spiritual attack. They tried to interrupt what I am doing in your life. They tried to interfere with your path. They tried to block the blessings I have prepared for you. They tried to drag you into darkness so you would lose focus on your purpose. But they failed. Understand this deeply. No plot formed against you can ever succeed. No darkness formed near you can ever overpower your light. No force sent toward you can ever break you while I am with you. But you must know the truth. The person who hired that criminal isn't a distant stranger, not some unknown enemy lurking far away. No, they are someone who knows your routines, someone who has seen your victories, someone who has watched your blessings unfold and secretly grew resentful. And my child, the deeper truth is this: the moment I began elevating you, their darkness toward you started forming. They watched you step into new levels. They watched your life shift. They watched your identity strengthen. They watched you heal. They watched you grow. And instead of celebrating, they felt threatened. They compared themselves to you. They asked why your prayers were answered when theirs seemed delayed. They asked why you kept rising when they stayed stuck. They asked why doors opened for you but remained closed for them. Their envy grew roots. It expanded. It poisoned their spirit. Slowly, quietly, dangerously, until one day, resentment turned into intent. They didn't want to see you win anymore. They didn't want to witness your growth anymore. They didn't want to hear your name spoken positively anymore. They didn't want to watch you being blessed anymore. So they made a choice that sealed their own downfall. Instead of working on themselves, they aimed at you. Instead of healing their wounds, they targeted your destiny. Instead of accepting their own journey, they tried to sabotage yours. And the moment they reached for darkness is the moment heaven marked them. My child, the reason I am revealing all of this to you is because I need you to understand that not everyone around you carries pure intentions. Some people admire you in the daylight, but resent you in their hearts. Some people clap for you, while wishing secretly that your next step fails. Some people smile at you, with a mouth that hides bitterness behind the teeth. And yet, you continue rising. Do you know why? Because their envy is not stronger than my protection, and their hatred is not stronger than your purpose. Now listen, my child. There is something else you need to understand. The attack wasn't only meant to harm you physically. The real target was your spirit. The real aim was your stability. The one who orchestrated this wanted to cause fear so deep that you would lose confidence, lose focus, lose direction. They wanted to shake your faith, shake your courage, shake your mental peace, because they believed that if they could get inside your mind, they could break the future I am building for you. But they underestimated something crucial. You are not weak. You are not unprotected. You are not fragile the way they think you are. You are not standing on your own. You walk with my covering, my child. The moment the plan was formed, I stepped into the battlefield. I positioned myself between you and the danger, before the danger ever started moving. I dismantled the path. I blocked the attempt. I broke the assignment piece by piece. And when darkness tried to advance, I stood in its way and said, "Enough." I handled it long before you even sensed anything near you. But now, I need to take you into the spiritual reality behind all of this. Why they chose this moment. Why the timing is so intense. Why this attack surfaced now. Let me explain. The reason this happened at this exact time is because you're close to a breakthrough. Very close. Closer than you know. You are stepping into a chapter where more doors open, more clarity comes, more blessings unfold. You're stepping into a place the enemy never wanted you to reach. That's why the attack was so extreme. The enemy never wastes his strongest weapons on people with no purpose. He only attacks destiny. The timing of this attack is proof of your anointing. The intensity of this attack is proof of your elevation. The strategy behind this attack is proof of your impact. The enemy sensed what was coming next for you. He felt the shift in the spirit. He knew your life was about to be lifted. He knew your influence was about to increase. He knew your name was about to be written in places your feet haven't even reached yet. And because he couldn't stop your blessing, he sent someone to stop you. But he forgot something. Something crucial. I decide what happens in your life, not the enemy. I decide what doors open for you, not people. I decide your destiny, not jealousy. I decide your elevation, not the one who envies you. I decide your protection, not the one who hates you, and I have decided that you will rise. My child, let me show you what happened spiritually at the exact moment the body was found. While officers saw chaos, heaven saw victory. While investigators saw mystery, angels saw interception. While the man fell, his assignment fell with him. While the world saw a crime scene, I saw a closed door, a door the enemy tried to open but I personally shut. There are things happening for you right now that you don't even know about. New protection, new strength, new clarity, new blessings. Because whenever the enemy attacks, I don't just defend you, I upgrade you. Now, my child, we need to talk about the aftermath. The one who sent this man is now spiraling. Their mind is not at peace. Their plan didn't just fail, it backfired. Their intention didn't just collapse, it exposed them. Their darkness didn't just disappear, it turned into consequences. And their life is about to feel the weight of what they attempted. Because when you touch one of my children, you touch my hand. When you send harm towards someone I protect, that harm returns multiplied, not as revenge, not as cruelty, but as justice. My child, hear me. You do not have to fight them. You do not have to confront them. You do not have to expose them. You do not have to defend yourself. What they tried to do is already known in heaven, and now heaven will handle it. The person who wanted to see your downfall will watch your elevation instead. The person who wanted to see your tears will watch your strength. The person who wanted to break you will watch you rise above everything they threw at you. The person who planned your fear will witness your peace. They will not escape their consequences, not because you want them to suffer, but because the universe responds to intention. Every action has weight. Every choice has a path. Every seed produces a harvest. And they planted darkness. Now they must face it. But you, my child, you will not carry fear from this moment. You will not carry anxiety from this revelation. You will not carry worry about what could have happened. Instead, you will walk with gratitude, with strength, with awareness that you are protected on levels you never even imagined. My child, now that we have walked through the darkness that was sent toward you, now that you understand the plot that formed behind your back, it's time to reveal the last and most important truth. This final part will tie together everything that has happened, the body, the note, the enemy, the reason, the protection, and the destiny shift that is unfolding even as you read this. So open your heart, steady yourself, and listen with the depth of your spirit. The person who hired that criminal, you've wondered who they were. You've wondered why they would go to such an extreme. You've wondered why your name would be written on that folded note with such precision. You've wondered why a stranger would risk his life to carry out a plan he didn't even understand. My child, the one behind all of this is not far from you. They are not some distant figure in the shadows. They are closer than you think. Too close. Close enough to see your blessings. Close enough to know your habits. Close enough to observe your victories. Close enough to recognize your potential long before you recognized it yourself. Close enough to pretend they supported you while secretly holding resentment so deep that it twisted their heart into something unrecognizable. This person did not begin as your enemy. That is important to understand. They weren't always plotting against you. At some point, they cared, or pretended to. At some point, they wanted to be part of your journey. At some point, you might have even trusted them, or gave them a place in your life. But as time passed, something inside them shifted. Instead of being inspired by your growth, they became irritated by it. Instead of appreciating your rise, they felt overshadowed by it. Instead of walking beside you, they began competing with you silently. Every good thing that happened in your life added pressure to their insecurities. Every blessing you received reminded them of their stagnation. Every door that opened for you reminded them of the doors that remained closed for them. And the painful truth is, your success triggered the part of them